It's Monday. Time for Rock Solid Sports.
The Tennessee Volunteers on a Neyland Stadium football Saturday afternoon come running through the tee.
Voted Blank News Knoxville's finest sports show.
It's football time in Tennessee.
Sponsored by Cool Beans, a block off the strip on Lake Avenue.
To the checkerboards. Touchdown, Tennessee.
Rock Solid Sports, the only show with a home field advantage for UT athletics. Here's tonight's host.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into Rock Solid Sports, the Monday edition of RSS right here on 90.3 The Rock. I'm pumped to talk some sports with my guys tonight. I got Joseph Bonanno to the left of me. I got Bryson right across the glass. I got Riley Haltom at our very generous sponsor, Cool Beans, the sponsor for the Monday show over on Lake Avenue. Let's kick it over to Riley to start off with. Riley, how's it going over at Cool Beans?
That is, Jack. It's good. We're having a good time down here. Lots and lots of energy, lots of good food, good drink. Great night to get out there on that little patio area and have a drink with your friends. So, yeah, come down here. Come see me at Cool Beans. As always, great sponsor down here on Lake Ave. We love them.
Absolutely, Riley. Love to hear from you. And Joseph, how we doing, buddy?
Doing good, back at school finally, getting through the first week. It's been pretty hectic, but glad to get back in the swings of things. And it's game week.
It's game week, just 3 days.
Few more days until Tennessee kicks off. Kicks off against Ball State.
7 p.m. Thursday, 3 days, baby. Less than 3 days now since we're past 7 o'clock. But Bryson, how excited are you, my man?
Pumped for another year of Tennessee football. I think that it's gonna be the best season that we've had over the past 5-6 years. I think for sure. Ooh. So I'm very excited. I think we're gonna get off to a good start this week.
Yeah, I mean it's probably not hard to do what you said. Have a better season than we've had in the last 5 to 6 years. But yeah, if Tennessee's going to get off to a good start, they definitely got a good opportunity. Ball State come to town. Tennessee a 33.5 point favorite. It should be a blowout, guys. I mean, I don't think I'm alone in thinking that.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, last year was a blowout, and Tennessee played pretty poorly against Bowling Green in the opener. So probably around the same thing, if not more, of a Tennessee blowout. But how are we feeling about Tennessee 3 days away? And let's start off. I got two things I want to get to with Tennessee football: Brew McCoy being eligible and the depth chart. So let's get into Brew McCoy first. I know it happened last Friday, I believe. So Bryson, let's start with you. Just how big of a deal is Brew McCoy being eligible for the Volunteers?
I mean, it's even more depth at the wide receiver position when you already have Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt out there. So now you basically have a three-headed monster right there. So I'm very excited to add him in there. And if you look at, like you said, they released a depth chart. He will probably be wide receiver 2. There's an or there, but I think it's going to go to Brew McCoy. I think he's going to be out there most likely over Walker Merrill. But, yeah, I'm very excited for him. And I think just having more weapons for Hendon Hooker to throw the ball to just is going to make it great for the rest of the season. But especially on Thursday, I think we're going to get to see the fireworks, even though it's not necessarily against a great competition compared to what they're going to see the rest of the season. I think it'll still be a good start for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. This receiving core is very exciting. Could be a three-headed monster this season with, Ced and Brew on the outside and Hyatt, playing the slot. Riley, what do you think of this trio of receivers Vols got going?
Look, these guys, it's such a major thing to have that many weapons for Hendon Hooker. We've seen what Hendon Hooker can do with, Bayless Jones, Javonte Payton, and Cedric Tillman. Now he gets his number one receiver back and replaces who he lost that went on to the NFL with two amazing college receivers. Jalen Hyatt, everything we've seen, everything we've heard, he's taken a major step forward this year. So I'm super excited to see him. And then obviously Brew, we saw what he could do over at USC. And now that he's finally free, I can't wait to see him on the field on the SEC with SEC opponents, with an SEC team. It's going to be great to see.
Yeah, the thing about Brew McCoy, he was so heavily recruited out of high school, supposed to be a stud, and it's just kind of been like this weird journey that is college football for him over the past couple of years. And of course, he got thrown into that COVID year too, so that played a part in everything. But a lot of things went into Brew McCoy's journey that has made it different than most. But now he's at Tennessee, he's eligible. This is his best chance to blow up, don't you think, Joseph?
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of production at USC, but again, he hasn't really been fully healthy. And he's been playing behind a lot of guys. Well, he comes to a Tennessee team that loses their number 2 wide receiver. It has a wide receiver competition outside of Cedric Tillman at number 1, because Jalen Hyatt was not the clear number 2 at the beginning of the offseason. He just wasn't. He hasn't performed since his freshman year, where he only had a couple solid games. His sophomore year, last year, kind of up and down. Velus Jones really kind of took a lot of the shine away from him. So did Javonte Payton. But like Riley said, he's come back and he's worked himself and he's put himself in a better position. And so he's that wide receiver too. And we've seen it through preseason. Brew McCoy is coming in with that wide receiver 3 pretty wide open. I mean, his competition on the depth chart, I think he has an oar with Walker Merrill, who hasn't seen much time in a Tennessee uniform on the field, at least. So I think he has a really good shot to define himself as that number 3 wide receiver. And if Jalen Hyatt maybe has another down year, he could even come up to that number 2. So I think it's just another weapon for Hendon Hooker. Obviously, we know this Josh Heupel offense. It's going to spread the ball out a lot. And Cedric Tillman's going to get his touches, because Cedric Tillman, what he did last year was so impressive. And it's just a talent that Tennessee's going to utilize. But with guys like Squirrel White, Jimmy Callaway, Jimmy Holiday, Ramel Keaton, all those guys are going to get touches. I think Brew McCoy has his chance to work himself up into that top 3 wide receiver group. And I mean, he already has in the preseason, but now he's got to show it in a game. Yeah,
I think it'll be a true 2A, 2B type scenario with Hyatt and McCoy. I mean, just the praise everyone has given Jalen Hyatt this preseason, this offseason, this past spring, dating back to April. I don't see how he can have a down year. I just think he has put in the time. He has worked endlessly, and he will be that guy, that he's just so fast that Heupel's going to find ways to use him this season. It's another season in Heupel's system for Hyatt. So I think he's going to be really good this season, and Brew McCoy will just grow as this offense progresses and as he becomes more comfortable. And, you mentioned the oars on this depth chart, and there's a lot of them. But with receiver, especially in all 3 of, these wide receiver positions, there's going to be oars. Because, like as Alex Golish has said, all 8 guys he feels comfortable with. There's 8 guys at the wide receiver position he feels comfortable with. And they're going to see playing time.
Oh, it's exactly what you want out of an offense that's so high tempo, like Josh Heupel. You got to have a lot of depth, especially at wide receiver, especially at offensive line. That's where the depth has to come, because you can't expect to run just 3 guys out there every single drive, have them run and run and run and expect them to be fully ready all 4 quarters of the game. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
So the fact that Alex Golish and Josh Heupel have a wide receiver room this deep with this much talent, and a lot of these guys are young. Squirrel White is probably, I think he's the youngest out of the group, if I'm not mistaken.
Of these 8, he is definitely the youngest.
So, and he's a really good talent. We've seen it in the offseason. But when you have depth like that, and a lot of these guys aren't freshmen, they're a couple-year players, 2-3-year players here at Tennessee and in college football. That is exactly what you want for this kind of offense. And I think Tennessee staff and Josh Heupel, Alex Golish, and they've done a great job putting it together. And I think these guys are going to be ready with veteran quarterback Hendon Hooker at the point.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And like you said, with the kind of offense, it's not just the tempo. It's a lot of deep routes.
Yeah.
So these guys are going to be running go routes. They're going to be running deep post routes. And it's going to be a lot of like high flying offense kind of stuff. So I do think it's good that they have this much depth, especially if you have a guy like Ramel Keaton that you can bring in, who's going to be a senior this year, who has a lot of experience. I think that's going to be great just to have him, and he can kind of be like maybe the steady hands guy who you can bring in every once in a while. He's not going to get as many targets as the other guys, but you can always kind of count on him.
Yeah, you mentioned the deep routes. I mean, you have so much speed with Squirrel White, Jalen Hyatt, and both Jimmys and Callaway and Holiday. I mean, we've seen that in the past with Jimmy Callaway. It's just his hands has been an issue. But if those guys can stay really locked in, Tennessee will have the deepest receiving core probably in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. And again, they got to stay healthy.
Right.
That's the biggest thing.
I mean, when you got these big frames like Cedric and Brew, and then all these speedsters, I mean, sky's the limit.
Yeah, and What I'm going to be interested in is seeing kind of the game plan for the wide receivers. Obviously, it's going to vary per opponent, but I think we see a lot of what we did with Bayless Jones with some of these guys on the back end of the depth chart, where you're getting these short routes, you're getting these bubble screens, these small little slants where you're getting catch, and then, hey, use that speed, just take off and run. Because Bayless did that last year, and you saw how that worked out for him. I mean, he's a 24,
third round pick in the NFL draft.
He's a 24-year-old that got drafted in the third round of the NFL. I mean, you don't see that, and that's the kind of production that Bayless Jones was able to put out. And so Jalen Hylett is a guy that I think can really benefit from the Bayless Jones role. Now, I think he can extend the field a little more because he's got a little bit of a longer frame, and he can kind of reach over defenders, and he has more of a 50-50 ball capability. But he's still got that speed that Bayless Jones had, and any of these guys on the depth chart can fill that role, which is what my biggest worry was when Bayless left, is who's going to fill that wide receiver 2 role.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to find our answer quickly within these first couple weeks.
Vols should be sitting good at the wide receiver position. Now we move on to a couple of the position battles that have been going on in camp and all throughout the preseason for the Vols, and that's left tackle in the secondary. So I'll start with left tackle. We can knock this out pretty quick because it's really just been a two-man race the whole time with Gerald Mincy and Jeremiah Crawford. It was neck and neck the whole camp. I think it's still neck and neck. I think both of these guys will see plenty of playing time. But on the depth chart, it's listed as Gerald Mincy, then Jeremiah Crawford. There is an or, but you have to think based off this listing that Mincy is the favorite right now. I think both have impressed in camp from what I've seen. So any surprises here, guys?
I'm not surprised by it. I mean, I think they would be fine going either way. And I think it's just one of those things where the coach is going to make his final decision probably Tuesday, Wednesday, and then release it to the public just to kind of give the guys a chance to, if they want to make one last push to get the starting job, whoever's in second right now, which I don't know what the order is. I know it's or. We were looking to see if it was maybe alphabetical, but it wasn't alphabetical in all cases.
Yeah.
So not really sure who's in front, but maybe whoever's behind him is maybe not too far behind. Give him another week of practice to maybe make the final stretch and maybe be the starter on Thursday. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they've probably got a pretty good idea of who's going to start already.
I mean, for Gerald Mincy, a redshirt sophomore, and then Jeremiah Crawford, a senior, I mean, that would have to have been a really good battle because if you look at the rest of the depth chart, it's a lot of juniors and a lot of seniors. You don't really see any freshmen or sophomores at the top of any of these position groups, except for maybe some DB where the Vols are thin. But Gerald Mincy, that's got to say a lot for him.
Yeah, I mean,
the
transfer
fact
coming
that he's up there and competing with Jeremiah Crawford, who's had a pretty decent career. But, you know, I think, and like I said, I think all of these guys on this depth chart, they're going to see playing time.
Right.
That's just how Josh Heupel's offense is. You can't put only 5 offensive linemen out there for all 4 quarters and expect them to be fully ready to go, you know, at the end of the fourth when crunch time's coming. So you're going to see all these guys play, especially against Ball State. Let's be honest.
Yeah, there's going to be so much rotation.
You're going to see a lot of rotation against Ball State. So if you see like Brew McCoy come out early and Walker Merrill go in, it's not a knock on Brew McCoy. It's just getting guys reps. Because let's be honest, the Vols are probably going to be up at somewhat large at one point in this game.
They're going to stomp Ball State. We all know it.
And yeah, I mean, and so when you see guys like Jeremiah Crawford get in there over Gerald Mincy, it's not because Gerald Mincy did anything bad. I mean, he might have messed up a play or two, but it's not because he's getting pulled. He's getting pulled because it's Ball State, and the Vols need to rotate these guys in and out.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point of this week one. I think that's why it's so beneficial to have a week one matchup like this for Tennessee, is just to, you know, fill these guys out. And of course, at that left tackle battle, they're going to fill that out. And another place they're going to fill it out, which is where a lot of depth is had, but not really a lot of top end talent. And that's the secondary, especially at the cornerback and star positions right now on the depth chart. Warren Burrell is listed as cornerback 1. No surprise there. But after him, it's Christian Charles or Kamal Hadden. I expected Kamal Hadden to get the day one start. Maybe it'll be Christian Charles. Both are fine. I just think Kamal Hadden has been a little more explosive in camp. Then at the star, Tamari McDonald, T-Mac, he has received a ton of praise from Willie Martinez, Tim Banks, Josh Heupel, you name it. They all talk about T-Mac and how much he has grown this offseason. Of course, T-Mac entering his junior year. And, you know, I've kind of found some similarities to how they've described Tamari McDonald's offseason to how Trey Lipscomb was for baseball. Just a guy who's grinded every day, has waited his turn. Now Tamari McDonald may have his time to shine this season, but he's going to have some competition at that star position with Wesley Walker, the newcomer. So a lot of options here at the cornerback position as well. I mean, Joseph, Bryson, we're going to see plenty of these guys too.
Oh, yeah, we're going to see a lot of them on Thursday. I think we're going to see everybody that's on this page on Thursday. Right. So I think that's when we, like, fans in general who probably haven't gotten to see some of these guys and don't really know necessarily who should be first or second. But I think after they see them on the field against Ball State and then against Pittsburgh, I think after the Pittsburgh game is when people are really going to start to solidify those starting roles.
Yeah. And all right, so just moving on in the depth chart, I thought something that kind of stuck out to me was middle linebacker. Of course, you got Jeremy Banks. They're going to play the two linebackers here in this Tennessee defense. But the other one, Juwan Mitchell, is listed as the or with Aaron Beasley, with Juwan Mitchell actually ahead of Aaron Beasley for basing it off that on this depth chart. And it's really no surprise to me. Of course, Aaron Beasley was the main starter last year because Mitchell was injured. But guys, Mitchell has had such a good preseason, such a good camp, just looks head and shoulders above everyone at his position right now.
Yeah, and the thing with linebacker, and we saw this a lot last year, guys like Jeremy Banks, Juwan Mitchell, they played the first two downs, and then you know what the defense would do? They would sub. They would sub. Aaron Beasley would come in. Solomon Page would come in. I mean, the defense, especially in this offense, and he always goes back to the offense in Josh Heupel's system. It affects every part of the team, the special teams, the defense, especially the defense. Because they're out there a lot more than a normal defense is. I mean, if you watched any of the games last year, especially that Ole Miss game
and the Kentucky game,
that defense was out there for a long time, and they're going to be. It's just how the offense works because the offense works so quickly. They're either going to score within a minute or they're going to be 3 and out within a minute, and then guess what? You're going to have to switch again. So the defensive starters aren't as shocking, the fact that there's an or there, right? Because you know that all those guys are going to play probably an equal number of snaps. I mean, maybe not like 50-50, but a 60-40 type deal.
I mean, Theo Jackson was the man at the star position last year, and we saw Deshaun Rucker, Christian Charles getting a ton of important snaps.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just how the defense is in this Josh Heupel offense. So, there's no surprise that Aaron Beasley has an or. He played really well last year. He's had a pretty solid camp that I know of. And Juwan Mitchell working back from that injury, he's probably not going to be 100% going in to day one. But
I have very high hopes and expectations for Juwan Mitchell this year. I think he could just blow up guys.
Oh, I thought he was a huge addition when he transferred from Texas.
I mean, he was. He just and it all went wrong.
The injury just kind of hurt him. I think he didn't really buy into the conditioning program because you could kind of tell he would start getting sluggish in the middle of the games. And I think you saw that from a lot of the defense because they weren't used to that. But I think this year's going to be different, and this defense is going to be a lot better than it was last year. And let's be honest, it was solid at times last year.
Mm-hmm. It was. I think the big thing is, like we're talking about, they're going to have more depth, and I think that's going to be the thing that's going to help them the most throughout the season. Just the fact that they have all these guys that have oars, I think that doesn't necessarily say that the guy who started last year got worse or anything. I think there's just a lot of guys that are really good on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely. And last position I want to talk about here is the kick returner. Talk about filling the shoes of Velus Jones at the wide receiver position. Got to do it in the special teams as well because we know how huge number one was for the Volunteers last year. Well, on today's depth chart release, the kick returner is listed as Jimmy Holiday. No big surprise there. I think he was the clear favorite all camp. And then at punt returner, you got D. Williams or Trayvon Flowers. So a bunch of, obviously fast guys going to be doing the job here.
Yeah, I'd expect to see maybe freshman Squirrel White, depending on how he does at wide receiver. And as midseason practices go along, I would expect to see him get some touches at either kick returner or punt returner, just as his progress kind of develops. But no, you got to have guys that have speed there, and you got to have guys who are veterans. You can't just throw a freshman out there on game one because that position is so important. It's a lot more important than a lot of people would realize because that's the field position game right there. That kicker your punter, your kicker, your punter, and your returners are your field position game. And we know with Tennessee in that offense, field position is so important. So I like the choices, but I definitely expect to see some other guys get rotated in there, especially here in week 1, like with every other position.
Right. Yeah. I love the way Jimmy Holiday runs, man. He runs so hard. I'm excited to see him return kicks starting as early as this Thursday. Like we said, 3 days away. So speaking of this Thursday, let's do a little game predictions, guys. Let's go to Riley first. Riley, Tennessee, Ball State. Who you got?
Who do I got? Okay.
Who do you got and by how much?
I think Tennessee might just squeak this one out by, 20, 30 points.
Final score.
So I'm gonna go. Let's go 16 Ball State to
16-2.
42.
16-42.
16-42.
All right, Bryson, what we got? Score prediction.
I'm gonna go 52-14.
Okay.
You saying Vols hit half a century?
Yep, they're hitting
That's
50.
definitely the
First
over.
game. They're hitting 50.
Riley's taking Ball State on the spread.
Yeah. I think the offense is going to come out a little sluggish. I just think it does. It's going to be hard for an offense this fast paced to come out banging. And I'm not talking about the entire game. I'm at the first couple drives.
Banging.
I think they look a little sluggish, but I think they're going to get their rhythm eventually. I think they score. I like the 42 to 45 range for Tennessee. Okay. And I think the defense gives up a couple. So I'm going to say 14. Yeah, I'm going to say like 42 to 14.
Wow. I got the over on the point total, man. I think Hendon Hooker lights it up, and then Joe Milton comes in and lights it up. I'm going to say 59-17. Man, they scored 60 twice last year.
True.
This is a scary offense. They're gonna shine bright when the lights are shining bright.
They're gonna
Thursday
win.
Night.
I got to pick. They're gonna win.
Everyone knows that. Maybe except Ball State fans.
Ball State.
I don't even know. Yeah. But anyway, it's gonna be a fun atmosphere in Neyland. Game 1's always fun. Then of course they'll travel to Pittsburgh next Saturday. But guys, we got plenty of exciting college football to watch this weekend with Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Georgia and Oregon. So it'll be fun to keep you an eye on that. But I want to talk about another Tennessee sport before we take our first break. That's Tennessee volleyball. Bryson, I'm going to kick it over to you. What's the word with the volleyball team?
Well, the Tennessee volleyball team, they had kind of a rocky weekend. They lost to Bowling Green, and they also lost to Purdue. They did win their first game against Loyola Chicago, though, even though that also went to 5 sets. So it was really kind of a shaky weekend. Danielle Mahaffey hasn't been back yet. She was one of the best players on the team last year. She's been injured to start the season. So they're really trying to find a way to kind of make up for her production, along with losing Lily Phelps from last year as well. So I think that it might take them a little bit to kind of settle into the new season. I think they definitely have a chance to get a little bit better as it goes on. But yeah, definitely a shaky first weekend.
Yeah, that match against Loyola Chicago back on Friday, I believe. It was a pretty back and forth match. Eventually, the Lady Vols were able to overpower the Ramblers and take that set 3-2. But like you said, on Saturday, a Bowling Green team that lost to Purdue in their first match back on Friday just came out and looked sluggish. They lost some momentum, and Bowling Green kind of took it up with them and was able to finish the win over the Lady Vols. And then Purdue, ranked 13th in the country coming into this Tennessee Classic, they actually swept the weekend, and they kind of had their way with the Lady Vols. And that's basically how they're ended. Lady Vols will actually head to Raleigh, North Carolina this upcoming weekend for the NC State Classic. They'll see Elon, Colgate, and North Carolina State. They'll try to bounce back after a rough weekend, like you said, Bryson.
Could be a fun weekend in the Carolinas. And, speaking of Bowling Green, Bowling Green's going to be coming to Rocky Top. They may already be here, but tomorrow night at least, or Wednesday night, I should say at least, to play the soccer team.
Yep.
soccer team looking to rebound after that Duke loss.
Yeah, another tough loss for the soccer team. They had a 2-0 lead, and then all of a sudden, in that last, I think it was the last 20 minutes of the game.
They had a 2-0 lead going into the last 20 minutes of the game.
Yeah,
there was like an 11-minute span. Duke just came out and showed why they were the number 5 team in the country.
Right.
They had dropped 3 spots. They were number 2 at the beginning of the season. They had dropped 3 spots heading into the week to the match with the Lady Vols, and they showed why they were a top 5 team.
Yeah.
Especially in that last 11 minutes, just they overpowered Tennessee, the Tennessee defense, and so Lady Vols gonna try to rebound back at home on Wednesday.
Yeah, a little asterisk with that Duke game of those because should have been a goal scored to make it 3-0.
Yeah, there definitely was a controversy.
Not trying to make excuses for that defensive meltdown in the last 20 minutes, letting up 3 goals and losing that way is just brutal. But it could have been a draw. That goal was scored because, of course, no overtime in soccer anymore. But all right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break, but stick around as after the break, we're going to talk some NFL preseason and Music City Malik, I think they're calling him. So, keep it right here with
the Young Gun.
With Rock Solid Sports. We'll see you around.
WUTK thanks Cool Beans, 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, sponsoring and hosting the Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans is the pregame and postgame location for UT football and Knoxville's home for the NFL Sunday Ticket, Titans football on the big screen, and more. Rock Solid Sports kicks off Monday Night Football with the show's live broadcast from 7 to 8 Monday nights at Cool Beans. Cool Beans is 21 and over after 9 p.m. with a full and late night menu. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page.
The Rock thanks the Knoxville LICE Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2022-2023 home ice season from October through April includes games with SPHL rivals Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets are at KnoxvilleIceBears.com or 865-525-PUCK. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, Go Ice Bears.
The Rock thanks the Hill Bar and Grill for their support. The Hill on Forest Avenue is open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. until late night for dining indoors or on the expanded patio. The Hill has a variety of appetizers and a full menu of wings, burgers, tacos, and more. The Hill is our Thursday Munchie Madness sponsor and home of Friday's Rock Solid Sports. On Instagram at The Hill Knox. Menu at thehillknox.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2022 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smokies Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports will cover Smokies Baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
Hey, everybody. This is Lee Ronaldo from Sonic Youth, and you're listening to 90.3 The Rock, modern rock, and more for Knoxville.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
90.3 The Rock proudly brings Knoxville the best in new and classic, independent, and underground music on the Indie Owl. Monday nights from 8 to 10, hosted by former award-winning alumni from the WUTK Music Department and sponsored by Magnolia Records, 1515 North Central Avenue in Knoxville, and the Tomato Head Restaurant on Market Square and in the Gallery Shopping Center. Spinning cutting-edge music from around the world that pushes musical boundaries like noise pop, math rock, slowcore, shoegaze, garage rock, chamber pop, chill wave, and more. The Indie Owl brings you hard-to-find music from the artists that make it to the listeners who love it. The Indie Owl also provides independent artist news and chances to win Tomato Head and Magnolia Records gift cards. Tune in to Knoxville's true independent radio. The Indie Owl, Monday nights at 8, only on 90.3 The Rock, always bringing Knoxville new music first.
90.3 The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department for their support. Season tickets for the 2022 UT Volunteers football season are on sale now. The next phase of Neyland Stadium renovations will be ready for the new season with home games against Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, and more. Info at allvols.com. A link is at WUTKradio.com. 90.3 The Rock wishes Coach Heupel and the football Vols good luck this season on the gridiron.
All right, peeps. Welcome back to Rock Solid Sports on this beautiful Monday night right here in Knoxville. We are 3 days away from game day. We've said it before, but just a great atmosphere here on Rocky Top. And I'm going to kick it over to our guy, Riley, at our generous sponsor, Cool Beans on Lake Avenue. Riley, how's it shaking, man?
Going good. Good atmosphere, good music. So come out here. Come enjoy the weather out on the patio. It's getting a little dark for that, though. So come here, enjoy the atmosphere of the bar itself, and get you a drink and get some food. You know, they got some NFL Network showing some Money Malik highlights. And hey, Jack, speaking of Money Malik.
Yeah, let's hear it.
But Malik, I love the nickname, by the way. Music City Malik, Money Malik, they're all good.
Which one's better?
Music City Malik's better.
Yeah, it's got to be, right?
Yeah.
Music City
no question.
Malik.
MCM has a whole new meaning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But
move over.
Yeah, incredible to watch him play preseason week 3. He just seems to keep improving. What y'all think?
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, I think this third game really brought to life all the hype for Malik Willis, Joseph.
Yeah, you know, the one thing with Malik Willis, now, obviously when the Titans drafted him, they did not think that they were going to get him in the third round. Not at all.
He's not supposed to fall that far, of course.
No one thought he was going to fall that far. He did. He was the best player on the board. Titans took him, rightfully so. And I'm glad they did, because the one thing you saw throughout this preseason is how fast he progressed to become an NFL quarterback. We saw in week 1, he was running in situations he shouldn't have ran. He was holding the ball when he should have gotten rid of it. He wasn't making reads. He would kind of look at his first option, maybe his second option, and then he would go to his legs. And then week 2, we saw a little bit less of that. We saw a little bit more pocket presence, still a little shaky. Now, this last week against the Cardinals, I think that is the best I've seen Malik Willis play quarterback, even through his stint in college. Is one of the best times I've seen him play quarterback. He was making his reads. He was sticking in the pocket. He was taking hits while delivering throws. I mean, that touchdown to Treylon Burks where he threw a dart right over the middle. I mean, he got blasted on that play, and he stood in there. He took the hit, and he delivered a strike to Treylon Burks, who eventually ran it in for a 14-yard touchdown. But he looked poised. And despite the horrible play of the offensive line, which is a whole nother topic, and which I think could actually hurt Malik Willis going forward, he did a great job. And the progression was so noticeable. Like, I was actually shocked by how noticeable that progression for Malik Willis was.
Bryson? Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
Let's hear it.
And it's only been 3 weeks like that. Well, obviously a little bit longer because they had the stuff, but we've only seen him play 3 times, and he's gotten better in every single game. And another thing I noticed was the way that the team really kind of rallied around him. Yeah. Like when he had that long run, did you notice how like all the offensive linemen all came and met him down there? And I was like, that's how that is little stuff like that is how you know that he's a great guy in the locker room. And I think those guys would go out there and play for him for sure.
Yeah, I want to ask you guys, y'all are all much bigger Titans fans than I am. What was your confidence level? Let's go to Joseph first. What was your confidence level in Malik Willis starting a regular season game for the Titans after game 1 of the preseason compared to what it is now?
After game 1 of the preseason, I did not think Malik Willis needed to start an NFL game.
Now?
At all. Now, I think in emergency, he could start a game, but only in emergency. I'm still on the train that Ryan Tannehill is your guy for this year. He's your best option. And in my opinion, he's your only option right now.
So barring injury, nada.
Barring an absolute horrific injury or some kind of meltdown within that team by like week 8 or 9, like you're 0-9. Like I'm talking about meltdown. Mm-hmm. I don't think Malik Willis needs to start a game in the NFL. Honestly, I don't really think he needs to take a snap. But I will say the Titans are probably going to be smart. They're probably going to use them in goal line packages. They're going to use the leg and the really strong arm of his, pull out some trick plays. I'm okay with that. But I do not think he needs to start this year. I think he needs to pull the Patrick Mahomes, the Trey Lance, and he needs to sit the first year. He needs to work. If he developed this quickly, imagine one full year.
I think you could give him the Trey Lance treatment where he comes in and goal line packages. I'm a huge
yeah. I mean,
I think that's the best
I'm
thing to
okay
do.
with that. But to start a game, no, he's not ready. And if the Titans throw him in there to start, when he's not ready, you can end up ruining him. I mean, it's happened so many times in the NFL, and I think he is still way too raw to just be thrown in there as a starter.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. But I do also think that if you did throw him, like if he had to start, I think that you could win a game with Malik Willis as your quarterback.
Yeah,
if he had to start. But I still think that for now, Ryan Tannehill is the starter. Malik Willis is definitely more of a quarterback of the future. He's more of a guy that you're trying to develop right now. But for this year, I think they should definitely stick with Ryan Tannehill. So I don't think that's really been a question at all the entire preseason. I mean, I guess we'll finally get to see him in week 1 since he didn't play at all during the preseason.
Yeah, I have my own thoughts about that.
I'm not a fan.
I'm not a fan.
Russell
of it
Wilson
either.
did the same thing.
He should have taken the first couple drives in that third game, gotten some reps with the first team in a game-like situation and moved on. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not saying it was his decision. It could be the coaching staff's decision and Mike Vrabel. We've seen Mike Vrabel do that before. Ryan Tannehill didn't play the preseason at all last year. It was all Logan Woodside and Cole McDonald.
And what happened in the first game last season, if you remember? Yeah, it was.
I remember.
It was nasty.
I'm not a huge fan
Chandler
of
Jones
it
feasted
because you come out in week 1 sluggish, but I'm not a coach, and so I'm not in that organization right now. So, I mean, I can't make the decisions, but I can say I'm not a fan of it.
To prove your point, Joseph, Tom Brady has been away from the team for 2 weeks? Has missed all preseason so far, and then shows up and plays in a preseason game.
Yeah.
And if the 45-year-old GOAT is making an effort to play in a preseason game after being away from the game for 2 weeks, maybe it's a good idea to play in the last preseason game just to get that little bit of
even if it's 2
feel.
Drives.
Right,
even if
exactly.
It's 2
just to get the
drives.
feel of a real football
I'm telling
game
you, just get in there, take a couple hits, like make sure you're ready because guess what? Like you said, Bryson, last year, week 1, Chandler Jones feasted 5 sacks. And the way that offensive line played, especially the right or the left side of the offensive line, especially the tackle position, the way they played all preseason.
You can say his name. It's okay. You can say Taylor Lewan. It's okay.
Taylor Lewan.
you can say it.
And the right side. It was the right tackle too because Dylan Radunz looked horrible. And that kind of worries me because who else is going to play right tackle?
Yeah, I
mean, yeah, but you're going to throw a rookie out there. I mean, they are playing the Giants week 1, but
Nicholas Petit-Frere has looked so good over the preseason. I think it's not even a question that you start.
You can't throw Dylan Radunz out there because Ryan Tannehill will die.
I think you put Dylan Radunz at left guard.
Left guard?
That's just what I think.
It's going to be interesting. I think Ryan Tannehill is going to be running for his life a couple times in the first couple of weeks while the Titans figure that out. Because the fact that they didn't address that at all over the offseason really worries me. I still think they go and sign a veteran at some point when they realize how big of a mistake they made not addressing the offensive line issues, especially after getting rid of Roger Saffold. But
they'll have their hands full as early as week 2 with the Bills, and then week 3, Max Crosby's coming to town. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch.
The good thing is they do have to go against Jeffrey Simmons and practice every day. So maybe that'll help him get a little bit better.
Riley, I wanted to ask you, just to finish out this conversation on Music City Malik here, what would be your comfort level in Malik Willis starting a game if he had to?
Okay, so here's my process on this. You go back to Ryan Tannehill traded to Tennessee. I don't think anybody really had any confidence in him starting a game. He played a little bit. He looked fine in practice. But nobody really had any confidence in him starting. Well, then Marcus Mariota goes out there, doesn't play to the standards that the coaches want, gets benched, Ryan Tannehill comes in, and, now we're here. So I think there's potential for a very similar situation to happen where, rather than trading for a backup and him becoming the starter, draft the backup. And let's say we see the Ryan Tannehill out there that we got in the Bengals playoff game. If we see that Ryan Tannehill for the first few games, I think all of a sudden it looks more and more likely. And, you're going to have Titans fans on Twitter that are begging for Music City Malik if Ryan Tannehill's sucking. So if Ryan Tannehill just doesn't look good, if the Bengals broke him or something. He's a broken man now. Can't play quarterback at the NFL level. I'm not opposed to seeing Malik Willis get in there because most interesting stat I've seen, preseason game 1, each time he dropped back, it was 4.3 seconds before he made a decision, whether it's run, throw, 4.3 seconds. That's way too long for an NFL quarterback. By preseason game 3, that number was all the way down to 3.08 seconds before he made a choice. He dropped that a whole second just in 3 games, in preseason games, where he wasn't playing the whole time. That's a major step forward for him, and I think if he continues to make progress at the rate he's making it, I'm not opposed to him starting the game come week 8 if Ryan Tannehill is playing like garbage.
Hey, I've said it before on the show. I'll say it again. If they're 2-7 heading into Lambeau on that Thursday night game, having lost to either the Commanders or the Texans and losing all of the losable games as well, of course they're going to beat the Giants week 1. I think you could see it happen.
Listen,
and that record going into week 9 it's possible in my.
With Ryan Tannehill, there are 2 things that determine Ryan Tannehill's success in this Titans offense. Number 1 is the wide receivers and tight ends. The tight end position with the Titans, I think, was taken care of over the offseason, just like it should. You brought in Austin Hooper, you draft Chig, and then you obviously have Jeff Swaim as your number 2. He's more of a blocking guy, but has shown he can catch passes. I think the tight end position is going to benefit. The upgraded tight end is going to benefit Ryan Tannehill. Now, you also downgraded a wide receiver. We can't forget you trade A.J. Brown. You bring in an injured or an older Robert Woods coming off an ACL tear, and he didn't play at all in the preseason. Now you're expecting him to go out there week 1 and be like, okay, dude, you got to be wide receiver number 1. Well, that kind of worries me for Ryan Tannehill because we saw what happened last year when he didn't have an A.J. Brown or a Julio Jones on the field. He could not find anyone to throw to. Now, was some of that bad decision-making? Yes, there was some bad decision-making. But also, you had wide receivers who went out there and couldn't get any separation. Yeah. I mean, you got guys like Nick Westbrook-Akina, your wide receiver number 1. You can't have that with Ryan Tannehill. He's not a good enough quarterback. He's not an Aaron Rodgers where he can make up for the lack of talent at wide receiver. What worries me is the fact that if Treylon Burks, if Nick Westbrook-Akina, if Robert Woods, if those guys don't work out,
there's nothing else.
Ryan, you basically said Ryan Tannehill, sorry. You got to make up for us giving away your all pro level wide receiver because we didn't want to give him a contract or he didn't want to accept the contract we had, and we brought in an older Robert Woods who's coming off an injury. That in my opinion, that's a disservice to Ryan Tannehill, and if he fails this season, I think it's because of that in the offensive line.
Yeah, I see what you're saying with that. I mean, obviously, unless he just comes out and throws a bunch of horrible interceptions.
No, if it's bad decision making, but you got
that would be the only other thing. But I still think that with Robert Woods, if Robert Woods can play back at the level he was before his injury, and I do think Treylon Burks is going to look a little bit better in the regular season than he did in preseason. As much as we did praise Malik, I think Malik did miss him a couple times. I mean, they talked about him not really being able, not throwing the ball as much the first couple weeks. So I think with Ryan Tannehill out there, they will get a little bit better with that.
And let's be honest, Malik was playing third string defenses. I mean, he maybe played a couple first string guys for a drive or two.
He definitely did a little bit
for a drive or two, but when majority of his time in the preseason was against guys who are getting cut today and tomorrow. Let's be honest.
Well, I want to say getting cut, but maybe not starters.
I mean, let's be honest.
Let the segue be the segue.
You throw Malik Willis out there against the Raiders defense or the Bills defense, he's getting destroyed. I mean, I
don't know if I can say that.
I even think if you throw him against the Giants, he's not succeeding at all.
I don't know if they would win the game, but you say destroyed. I don't know if I'm ready to say
you're
that.
going from practice squad, second string, third string guys to first string guys who have been in the league for several years. I mean,
that's just the nature of it.
And you have a shaky offensive line and not a lot of talent wide receiver with a rookie quarterback. I just don't see. I think you're going to hurt Malik Willis if you throw him in there.
I don't think he should go out there either. I just don't think he would get completely destroyed if you threw him out there.
I mean, he would be able to make up with some of it with his athleticism, but he's not winning you a game close.
Okay. Yeah, well, you had the perfect segue a couple of seconds ago. You talked about guys getting cut today or tomorrow. Speaking of guys getting cut, I think I believe it was today, right? the longtime punter of the Tennessee Titans since 2009, 13-year vet with the Titans. Brett Kern was released. Looks like Stonehouse has won the job.
Yeah, Ryan Stonehouse, the heavy leg. I mean, Duke could punt a ball 80 yards. Absolutely ridiculous talent there from Stonehouse, but you can't forget what Brett Kern has brought to that Titans franchise. He's been there with every head coach of the Tennessee Titans. He started with Jeff Fisher, who was the first coach of the Tennessee Titans way back in the early 2000s. And he moved through Mike Munchak, Mike Mularkey. Right? Yeah, through all those guys. Now he ended his career with Vrabel. And, he didn't really end on the note that I would say he wanted to. Had a kind of down year last year compared to what we've seen from Brett Kern. Then he gets beat out by, I believe, a rookie. I think Stonehouse is a rookie, if I'm not mistaken. He's either a rookie or a second-year player. I believe he's
definitely younger than him. I'll say that.
I think he's out of Australia. Is he out of Australia or Colorado State? Colorado State. But yeah, so Brett Kern, Titans legend. I think they should retire his jersey number. Maybe not, but
hey, listen,
he is a rookie.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to it because like you said,
retire
since 2009, right? I used to have season tickets growing up, and I used to go to a lot of the games. There were a lot of games I went to where Brett Kern was the best player on the Tennessee Titans.
Oh yeah, especially
for the game, for the season, he was the best player. He was the only player that went to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, especially
a couple years.
2015, 2016 era, like that.
Yeah,
was
the year before they got the number 2 pick and got Marcus Mariota was one of the
So it was like Brett Kern was the best player on the Titans, and Vinatieri was the best player on the Colts for a while.
Yeah,
no. I'll literally say that. There were some games where the punts were the most exciting part.
Yeah.
You're like, dang, Brett Kern, he's going to pin him inside the 2-yard line every time.
Brett Kern helped bring the Titans and Titans fans one of the most memorable moments when he helped end Tom Brady's career in New England.
Of course.
With the nail in the coffin where he put him down at the 1-yard line, and then we all know what happened. Logan Ryan picked 6 to end the game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the best moments from the
Titans legend will be missed.
And and it was just like you always knew that he was going to flip the field or pin him inside to 20.
Oh, yeah.
It was almost like a guarantee for 12, 13 years now. So definitely never going to forget what Brett Kern did as a Titan. And I would definitely be okay with them retiring the number, if not just because I don't know. I said I would be okay with it.
I'm
not
weird.
saying they should. I would be okay with it if they did, though.
It's weird because it's number 6, and that's kind of like a really big number, especially now that all these positions can get single-digit numbers that weren't able to before. But with Brett Kern, just real quick before we end this segment, where do we think he's going to go? I know the Broncos are looking for a punter, and the Bills are looking for a punter. The Colts were looking for a punter. A lot of people feared that that he would go to the Colts if the Titans released him, but the Colts actually just signed a guy. So
the guy who's the Bills cut, Matt Hawk.
Yeah, so they're no longer looking for a guy, but a really good veteran who's still got a good leg on him. Any thoughts of where we go? Riley, maybe you?
I'm a big fan of him going to the Broncos. That's where originally, I'm pretty sure Brett Kern started his career with the Broncos. And a very similar situation to what happened with the Ryan Stonehouse situation here in Tennessee happened way back then, except then the Broncos chose the veteran guy rather than the younger guy. And Brett Kern left the Broncos. He got cut by the Broncos. They went with the older veteran. Brett Kern came to Tennessee in 2009, and now he's been the best punter in Titans history by far and away. Oilers history too, So I do think that it was the right decision for them to do that, and I think Brett Kern might end up going back to where he started with the Broncos.
Riley, you're a smart guy. You nailed it, man. You nailed that entire story. So props to you. But yeah, started career as the Broncos. Everything Riley said was right on. So yeah, maybe he could go back to the Broncos, like Riley said, or anywhere else.
Or the Bills.
Yeah, because
I would be fine with him going to the Bills and ring chasing.
Did you guys see Matt Barkley punt on?
Oh yeah,
he actually did all right.
But listen, the thing with Brett Kern, wherever he goes, I think he only has a couple more years left on him. I honestly think he could even retire now that he got released. I'm sure he'll go look for his options. He'll look at Buffalo. He'll look at Denver. But I think he'll definitely retire. He's had a really long, really solid career. And I think he's going to do what Jarrell Casey did. He's going to sign like a one-day contract with the Titans to retire a Tennessee Titan. That's what's going to happen. It's just whether or not it happens this year or here in a couple years. But
I'll say this: if the Titans can't win the Super Bowl this year, I hope that whatever team has Brett Kern wins.
I like that.
Could very well be Buffalo. Well,
like that.
We're going to take our second break of the hour. Then we'll be back at the end to toss it over to Bryson for a little LVFL news in the WNBA. So keep it right here with Rock Solid Sports on 90.3 The Rock.
WUTK thanks Cool Beans, 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting the Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans is the pregame and postgame location for UT football and Knoxville's home for the NFL Sunday Ticket, Titans football on the big screen, and more. Rock Solid Sports kicks off Monday Night Football with the show's live broadcast from 7 to 8 Monday nights at Cool Beans. Cool Beans is 21 and over after 9 p.m. with a full and late night menu. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page.
The Rock thanks the Knoxville Lice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2022-2023 home ice season from October through April includes games with SPHL rivals Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets are at KnoxvilleIceBears.com or 865-525-PUCK. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, Go Ice Bears.
The Rock thanks the Hill Bar and Grill for their support. The Hill on Forest Avenue is open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. until late night for dining indoors or on the expanded patio. The Hill has a variety of appetizers and a full menu of wings, burgers, tacos, and more. The Hill is our Thursday Munchie Madness sponsor and home of Friday's Rock Solid Sports. On Instagram at The Hill Knox. Menu at thehillknox.com.
90.3 The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department for their support. Season tickets for the 2022 UT Volunteers football season are on sale now. The next phase of Neyland Stadium renovations will be ready for the new season with home games against Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, and more. Info at allvols.com. A link is at WUTKradio.com. 90.3 The Rock wishes Coach Heupel and the football Vols good luck this season on the gridiron.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
90.3 The Rock proudly brings Knoxville the best in new and classic, independent, and underground music on the Indie Owl. Monday nights from 8 to 10, hosted by former award-winning alumni from the WUTK Music Department and sponsored by Magnolia Records, 1515 North Central Avenue in Knoxville, and the Tomato Head Restaurant on Market Square and in the Gallery Shopping Center. Spinning cutting-edge music from around the world that pushes musical boundaries like noise pop, math rock, slowcore, shoegaze, garage rock, chamber pop, chill wave, and more. The Indie Owl brings you hard-to-find music from the artists that make it to the listeners who love it. The Indie Owl also provides independent artist news and chances to win Tomato Head and Magnolia Records gift cards. Tune in to Knoxville's true independent radio. The Indie Owl, Monday nights at 8, only on 90.3 The Rock, always bringing Knoxville new music first.
Oh, yeah. All right, people. Welcome back to Rock Solid Sports. On this Monday night for segment 3, we got about 5 minutes left with you guys. I'm going to hear how it's going over at Cool Beans, our generous Monday night sponsor, for my guy Riley real quick, though. Riley, how's it hanging, my man?
Good, man. We got some people out here playing pool behind me. Good drinks, good music, good atmosphere over at Cool Beans. So come and visit. You know, before I leave, it's a great time down here always.
Need to hop in a game and take people's money, Riley.
Easily.
Easy.
So easy.
All right, well, let's kick off this segment 3 with a little LVFL talk. The GOAT of the WNBA, of course, Candace Parker. Bryson, what's going on with her?
Yeah, so the WNBA semifinals got kicked off last night, and Candace Parker led the Chicago Sky. Even though they did lose, she had one of the better stat lines that has never happened in WNBA playoff history. She finished with 19 points, 18 rebounds, 5 assists, 6 blocks, and 4 steals. Nobody has ever done that in WNBA playoff history, but it was not enough for them to get past the Connecticut Sun, led by Dewana Bonner and Jonquel Jones. It's going to be a really interesting series. There's another series with the Storm and the Aces that is also going on, and both road teams took game 1 and took over home court advantage, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, Candace Parker had one of the best stat lines in WNBA history, but it just wasn't enough for the Chicago Sky. I'm expecting them to bounce back in game 2. Obviously, they won the championship last year, and they have a lot of experience in situations like this. So I do expect them to bounce back for game 2. But yeah, very disappointing that they weren't able to capitalize on a game like that from 2-time NCAA champion here at Tennessee, Candace Parker.
Can we talk about 14 years in the WNBA and she's still putting up stats
dominating?
Like that? I mean, like it's like Tom Brady level.
I see it like every week. Just something new.
That's Tom. That is like what Tom Brady's doing in the NFL. Is what LeBron James is doing in the NBA. Candace Parker is taking over the WNBA, even at 14 years in the league. I mean, it's ridiculous what kind of athlete she is and what she's been able to accomplish in her career. I mean, you just don't see those type of athletes every day, and you got like 3 of them right now in 3 major sports.
And then you can also just throw in Serena Williams for tennis, too. She's been dominating the same way. But with Candace, it's really interesting because she came into the WNBA and won Rookie of the Year and MVP just like off the rip. And then now 14 years in, she's still putting up numbers like this and winning a championship last year. And they have a good chance to win the championship again this year. Obviously, they are down 0-1 now. But they definitely they're in a really good position. If they can win game 2 and then steal a game in Connecticut, they're still in a really good chance to at least go back to the WNBA finals, even though this is your number 14 for Candace as well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Candace Parker, keep crushing it. I like your point you made, Joseph, how, we're living in this time of so many GOATs and so many sports. It's truly amazing to see. You can go through all these, arguably the best of all time in each sport has happened in our lifetime. So it's pretty great. But so I think that's going to do it for tonight's Rock Solid Sports. Guys, enjoy college football this week. Enjoy game day on Thursday. Tennessee, Ball State, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here down the street in Neyland Stadium. Going to be a fun environment.
Let's go.
You can check coverage of that game on our Twitter at WUTK Sports. On my Twitter, JMBonanno13. Jack's Twitter, Jack Foster TV. We'll have all the coverage of and Riley Haltom at Riley Haltom on Twitter as well. You can catch coverage of Tennessee Ball State on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Neyland Stadium. All of our Twitters will also have some post-game coverage as well on the Twitter as well. Jack and I will have our on-the-field stand-up. We'll do all that and more covering Tennessee Ball State. Football time in Tennessee, everybody.
Consume the football responsibly, everyone, and have a great rest of your Monday night. Stick around for Indy Isle right here on 90.3 The Rock.
Rockin' ears for 40 years on the banks of the Tennessee River.